Question is, why is our country ransacked, right? Why do we have to bear all the costs of research and development and all these things? It's just a grift.
Think of that. So $40 versus $500 here.
Yeah, we're not going to do that anymore, obviously. Americans will no longer be forced to pay almost 3 times more for the exact same meds, often made in the exact same factories. And should drug manufacturers fail to offer American consumers the most favored nation lowest price, we're going to take additional aggressive action, so figure it out. President Trump raised a bunch of eyebrows over the weekend, said, "My next truth that I post will be one of the most important and impactful I have ever issued. Enjoy." And many of us were like, "Ooh, what is this going to be?" Waiting over the weekend for the next post to drop. And boom, it did. And then they came out into the White House and they laced into the old regime of how the pharmaceutical companies and the Democrats ripped us off for years. And Senator Kennedy came out and explained it very clearly. But kind of the highlight of the whole announcement, in addition to saving trillions and saving lives and all the Medicare stuff, was Trump roasting his very fat businessman who he has some advice for on the jab shots that are supposed to reduce the overweightness in a person's body. But we'll come back to that one. We also have the actual order that was now signed and published explaining what the most favored nation policy is. But it all started with this post. Trump said, "All right, look, for many years, the world has wondered why prescription drugs and pharmaceuticals in the United States of America were so much higher in price than they were in any other nation, sometimes being 5 to 10 times more expensive than the same drug manufactured in the same laboratory or plant by the same company. Question mark, question mark, question mark. It was always difficult to explain and very embarrassing because, in fact, there was no correct or rightful answer. The pharmaceutical drug companies would say for years that it was research and development costs, and that all of these costs were and would be, for no reason whatsoever, borne by the suckers of America alone. Campaign contributions can do wonders, but not with me, and not with the Republican Party. We are going to do the right thing, something that the Democrats have fought for many years. Therefore, I, President Trump, am pleased to announce that tomorrow morning today, in the White House at 9 a.m., I will be signing one of the most consequential executive orders in our country's history, and we'll read it. Prescription drug and pharmaceutical prices will be reduced almost immediately by 30% to 80% on the total. They will rise throughout the world in order to equalize, and for the first time in many years, bring fairness to America. I will be instituting a most favored nations policy whereby the United States will pay the same price as the nation that pays the lowest price anywhere in the world. Our country will finally be treated fairly, and our citizens' healthcare costs will be reduced by numbers never even thought of before. Additionally, on top of everything else, the United States will save trillions of dollars. Thank you for your attention to this matter, and make America great again, from the president. Now, that sent a bunch of people haywire because this was something that the Democrats have been screaming about all the time. And Bernie Sanders in particular has talked about this a lot, but it is embarrassing. And you know what's embarrassing about this? When somebody calls you on the phone and says, "Hey, President, I'm paying 1/10 of the costs here in Europe than I pay back home." And that's exactly what happened. One of Trump's very successful fat friends called him and said, "Hey, this is ridiculous. Can you do something about this?" And apparently Trump said, "Yeah, actually, we're going to do something about it. Here's how it happened."
I'll tell you a story. A friend of mine who's a businessman, very, very, very top guy. Most of you would have heard of him. A highly neurotic, brilliant businessman, seriously overweight, and he takes the fat shot drug. And he called me up and he said, "President," he calls me, he used to call me Donald, now he calls me President, so that's nice respect. But he's a rough guy, smart guy, very successful, very rich. I wouldn't even know how we would know this, but because he's got comments. Said, "President, could I ask you a question?" "What?" "I'm in London and I just paid for this damn fat drug I take." I said, "It's not working." He said, "I just paid $88, and in New York I pay $1,300.
Why is
what the
that?
hell is going on?"
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you.
What the hell is going on? First of all, why are you taking drugs that don't work? Maybe you should up your dosage or something. Consult a medical professional, obviously, before you do that. But he's probably talking about the Ozempics or one of the GLP-1s or GLP whatever, and it's not working. You know, it's like, hey man, you need to, how much you taking? You want to bump those numbers up a little bit or what? But the point is, it is ridiculous, right? That is a pattern that happens in every industry. And we see this a lot in Arizona since we're so close to the border in Mexico. People come to Arizona and they just hop across the border to go get care there. I have friends that go down there. Like, they refuse to go to dentists here in Arizona. They'd rather go to Mexico. They've all got little dentist shops that they all have. And I've got friends who do stem cells down there. And there's a whole industry down there. It's like medical tourism because it's too damn expensive here. And you go here and the doctors are like, well, we're going to need to give you, the triple fluoride rinse. It's going to protect your teeth for what, 14 days. Well, do I need that? Yeah, you need that. Well, how much is that going to cost me? $15,000. Do you have to have it? I can't let you leave without it. You're like, what the hell's going on here? Right? Then you go down there and apparently they do it kind of a better job, cheaper, with better services, all the things. So there's a lot going on here. And the question is, why is our country ransacked, right? Why do we have to bear all the costs of research and development and all these things? It's just a grift, and their profit margins are inflated massively. So Trump came out, signed the executive order. Here is what he explained is going to be happening.
But it's called most favored nation. We are going to pay the lowest price there is in the world. We will get whoever is paying the lowest price. That's the price that we're going to get. So remember that. So we're no longer paying 10 times more than another country. Whoever is paying the lowest price, we will look at that price and we will say that's the price we're going to pay.
Perfect.
Most favored nations. That's what it is. One breast cancer drug costs Americans over $16,000 per bottle, but the same drug from the same factory, manufactured by the same company, is 1/6 that price in Australia and 1/10 that price in Sweden. 1/10 for the identical product. A common asthma drug costs almost $500 here in America, but costs less than $40 in the United Kingdom. So $40 in the United Kingdom, which is where this gentleman told me he paid a small amount for his shot. But think of that. So $40 versus $500 here.
Yeah, we're not going to do that anymore, obviously. So all the research and development, all those things, well, that's fine. They can just raise the prices everywhere else. We're tired of bearing the cost for it. So here is what the order actually says. All right, look, I'm the president. By the authority vested in me, here is what I am declaring. It is hereby ordered the following. The United States has less than 5% of the world's population and yet funds around 3/4 of the global pharmaceutical profits. This egregious imbalance is orchestrated through a purposeful scheme in which drug manufacturers deeply discount their products to access foreign markets and subsidize that decrease through enormously high prices in the United States, saying the United States has for too long turned its back on America and Americans who unwittingly sponsor both drug manufacturers and other countries. These entities today rely on price markups on American consumers, generous public subsidies for research and development, primarily through the National Institutes of Health, which brought us the very healthy development called COVID, and robust public financing of prescription drug consumption through federal and state healthcare programs, right? We pay for a lot of drugs in this country. The government, we do, the people, obviously. Drug manufacturers, rather than seeking to equalize evident price discrimination against us, agree to other countries' demands for low prices and simultaneously fight against the ability for public and private payers in the United States to negotiate the best prices for patients. The inflated prices in the United States fuel global innovation, while foreign health systems get a free ride. Now, this abuse of Americans' generosity, who deserve low-cost pharmaceuticals on the same terms as other developed nations, must end. Americans will no longer be forced to pay almost 3 times more for the exact same meds, often made in the exact same factories. We should get the best deal. Now, Americans should not be forced to subsidize these low prescription drugs and biologics for other developed countries and face overcharges for the same products. Americans must therefore have access to the most favored nation price, and we're going to take immediate steps to end the global freeloading. And should drug manufacturers fail to offer American consumers the most favored nation lowest price, we're going to take additional aggressive action. So figure it out. Now, the Secretary of Commerce and the United States trade representatives shall take all necessary and appropriate action to ensure that we're not getting ripped off. And to the extent consistent with the law, you shall also, facilitate direct-to-consumer purchasing programs for pharmaceutical manufacturers that sell their products to the American patients at the most favored nation price. Now, I think I'm in favor of this. I mean, I think that this has a lot of abuse potential, obviously, right? People are like bypassing medical providers and things. But a lot of the times, man, the medical providers act as gatekeepers. And like, well, you can only get it through me. You're like, well, what? And you can only get it through my compounded pharmacy. And what the hell's that? It's, everything is inflated monstrously where you can just go get it. It's like you could order it on India and have it shipped to you for $5. But now you're talking about, international trade in India and stuff like that. So why can't you just have another option? If a doctor gives you a prescription, you can just go right to the manufacturer within 30 and cut out everybody else, right? Because everyone's taking a cut of that. CVS and Walgreens and all of them, right? There's like 15 people before you get access to the medicine you need. Why is that? Because it's all regulation. And then we talk about why are the drugs so expensive? And it's because they can charge whatever they want because everyone's on insurance. And then the insurance really dilutes the cost sensitivity of the whole market because the insurance will just pay for for whatever. And then you've got, like anything, right? It's an 80-20 rule. And a small subset of the population is using a massive part of the healthcare resources, because that's how it always works in every system that has ever been created. Within 30 days of this date, the secretary shall, in coordination with the assistant to the president and others, communicate this policy to everybody. Now, if following the action described here, significant progress is made, then the secretary shall propose rulemaking to impose most favored nations pricing. Is not delivered, right, to the extent consistent with the law. So if they don't deliver this, like if we tell them, you better give us the same price as everybody else. We're going to sign up with Medicaid. We're going to give this to you at this price. You can sell us this at this price, take it or don't. Now, if you don't want that price and you're going to like withdraw your stuff from the markets or something, then we're going to do some other things. Consider certification of Congress that importation under these will pose no additional risks, and do some other commerce stuff. Nothing changes or creates any other enforceable rights. And it sounds like the teeth of this, necessary action regarding the export of pharmaceutical drugs or precursor materials. Like if you don't give us good deals, we're not going to send you the supplies you need. You want to make your drugs in India and then ship them back to us, but you need our whatever. You need these chemicals from America in order to create those things. We're not going to give you those drugs. So basically the drug companies are cut off from the American market, from the American entire, industry, essentially, not just the market to sell us drugs, but the industry to buy supplies to make the drugs. So you either play ball or you're cut out. America deserves to be treated fairly. That's all we're asking for. And now we're starting to go down that road.